Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today, we're talking about a silent revolution that has taken place in our kitchens and on our dinner plates. In our quest for convenience, our food has been radically transformed. The modern food landscape is now dominated by products that are cheap, have an incredibly long shelf life, and are engineered to be intensely flavorful. These are the hallmarks of ultra-processed foods, or UPFs, and they have become the modern diet's biggest dilemma. A rising tide of scientific evidence is revealing a deeply troubling connection between these industrial formulations and a host of chronic diseases. So today, we're going to unpack the science of ultra-processed foods. We'll learn how to identify them, look at the staggering statistics of their consumption, and examine the robust evidence linking them to serious health problems. What exactly are these foods, and why are they so harmful? The term ultra-processed food isn't just a casual phrase for junk food. It's a specific scientific classification from a system called NOVA, developed in 2009 by researchers at the University of Sao Paulo. The NOVA system doesn't categorize food by nutrients like fat or sugar, but by the level and purpose of the industrial processing it undergoes. It divides all food into 4 groups. Group 1 is unprocessed or minimally processed foods. This is the foundation of a healthy diet. Think of the edible parts of plants and animals as you find them in nature: fruits, vegetables, seeds, meat, eggs, and milk. Minimal processing includes things like drying, freezing, pasteurizing, or grinding, which preserve the food or make it easier to prepare without adding new substances. Examples include fresh or frozen vegetables, beans, lentils, nuts, rice, fresh meat, and plain yogurt. Group 2 is processed culinary ingredients. These are substances extracted from Group 1 foods, like oils pressed from seeds, butter from milk, or sugar from cane. We use them in our kitchens to prepare and season Group 1 foods. They aren't meant to be eaten on their own. Group 3 is processed foods. These are simple products made by adding ingredients from Group 2, like salt, sugar, or oil, to foods from Group 1. The goal is usually to make the food last longer or taste better. They are still recognizable as modified versions of whole foods. Think of canned vegetables, fruits in syrup, cured ham, most cheeses, and freshly made, unpackaged bread. Now we get to the category causing all the concern. Group 4, ultra-processed foods. These are not really modified foods, they are industrial formulations. They are made from substances derived from foods, like hydrogenated oils, protein isolates, and high-fructose corn syrup, combined with a host of additives. These products typically contain 5 or more ingredients, many of which you would never find in a home kitchen. The purpose of ultra-processing is to create products that are highly profitable, extremely convenient, and hyper-palatable, meaning they are irresistible to consumers. The processes involved are purely industrial, like extrusion and molding. The hallmark ingredients are things like modified starches, hydrolyzed proteins, and a long list of additives like colorings, emulsifiers, and non-sugar sweeteners. Examples are everywhere: most commercially produced breads and buns, sugary breakfast cereals, flavored yogurts, hot dogs, frozen pizzas, instant noodles, potato chips, soft drinks, and almost all packaged cookies, cakes, and candies. It's crucial to understand that not all processing is bad. Freezing vegetables is good. The NOVA system helps us distinguish between this benign processing and the industrial methods used to create UPFs, which are now linked to a wide array of health issues. Just how much of this stuff are we eating? The statistics are startling. In the United States, ultra-processed foods account for nearly 60% of the average adult's daily calorie intake. For American children and teenagers, that number climbs to an alarming 70%. The United Kingdom is not far behind, with UPFs making up 57% of the adult diet and a staggering 65% for children. In Canada, it's 47% of all calories. While the highest consumption is in these Anglo-Saxon countries, the trend is global. Middle-income countries are rapidly catching up, This isn't happening by accident. UPFs are designed for profit. They are hyper-palatable, convenient, and aggressively marketed, allowing them to displace healthier traditional diets. The alarm bells about the health consequences are now ringing louder than ever. In February 2024, the largest review on the topic was published in the British Medical Journal. This massive umbrella review analyzed data from nearly 10 million people and confirmed that high consumption of UPFs is directly associated with 32 harmful health outcomes. Let's break down the major risks. First, obesity and weight gain. The link here is one of the most consistent findings in nutritional science. The BMJ review found that high UPF consumption increases the risk of obesity by 55%. But the most compelling evidence comes from a landmark randomized controlled trial by the National Institutes of Health. In this study, 20 people were housed in a lab for a month. For 2 weeks, they ate an ultra-processed diet, and for another 2 weeks, an unprocessed diet. The meals were matched for calories, sugar, fat, and fiber, and participants could eat as much as they wanted. The results were stunning. On the ultra-processed diet, people spontaneously ate about 500 more calories per day. During those 2 weeks, they gained an average of 2 pounds. When they switched to the unprocessed diet, they lost an average of 2 pounds. This was the first direct evidence that UPFs cause overeating and weight gain, independent of their nutrient content. Next, cardiovascular disease. The evidence here is considered convincing. A diet high in UPFs increases the risk of death from cardiovascular disease by 50%. The risk of heart attacks and strokes goes up with every additional daily serving of a UPF. The combination of saturated fats, sodium, and added sugars, along with a lack of protective nutrients, is devastating for heart health. The evidence for type 2 diabetes is also incredibly strong. The BMJ review found that high UPF intake was associated with a 12% greater risk, while other studies have put this figure as high as 40%. The high glycemic load from refined carbs and added sugars leads to insulin dysregulation, and the weight gain and chronic inflammation promoted by these foods are primary drivers of the disease. And what about cancer? Multiple studies suggest a link. One study found that men who ate the most UPFs had a 29% higher risk of developing colorectal cancer. Other research has linked these foods to an increased risk of breast and pancreatic cancer. The effects extend to mental health as well. The 2024 review reported convincing evidence of a 48 to 53% higher risk of anxiety and common mental disorders with high UPF intake. The risk for depression was also 22% higher. Even our sleep is affected, with a 41% increased risk of sleep problems. Ultimately, a diet high in these industrial formulations is linked to a shorter life. Studies have found that the highest consumers of UPFs have a 21% to 28% greater risk of death from any cause compared to the lowest consumers. So why are these foods so consistently harmful? It's not just about sugar, salt, and fat. The science points to a complex network of mechanisms. First is the hyperpalatability factor. Food scientists meticulously engineer UPFs to hit a bliss point, a perfect combination of fat, sugar, and salt that is intensely rewarding to our brain, a sensation rarely found in nature. This can override our body's natural fullness signals. The soft texture of many UPFs also means they can be eaten much faster, which doesn't give our gut enough time to tell our brain we're full. This helps explain the extra 500 calories per day seen in the NIH trial. Second, UPFs are nutrient-poor and energy-dense. They displace healthier foods. When a large part of your diet is UPFs, you are missing out on essential fiber, vitamins, minerals, and protective phytochemicals found in whole foods. Third is the disruption of the food matrix. This refers to the physical structure of food. The intense industrial processing of UPFs destroys this natural structure. A whole grain is different from a finely milled flour. This destruction means nutrients are absorbed much more quickly, leading to sharp spikes in blood sugar and insulin. An intact food matrix helps us feel full. the degraded structure of UPFs is less satiating. Fourth, we have the industrial ingredients and additives. A diet high in UPFs exposes the body to a cocktail effect of chemicals whose long-term consequences are not well understood. Certain emulsifiers used to improve texture have been shown to alter our gut bacteria and promote low-grade inflammation. Artificial sweeteners may disrupt the gut microbiome and interfere with the brain's ability to regulate appetite. This leads us to the fifth mechanism, the assault on our gut microbiome. Our gut is home to trillions of bacteria that are vital for our health. They thrive on fiber from whole foods. A UPF-heavy diet starves them. Worse, the chemical additives in UPFs can harm the intestinal lining, contributing to a condition known as leaky gut and causing chronic, body-wide inflammation, which is a known risk factor for nearly all the diseases we've discussed. The problem goes beyond our bodies. The UPF-centric food system has profound environmental and societal consequences. UPF production relies on massive monocultures of cheap crops like corn, soy, and palm oil, which drive deforestation and biodiversity loss. The industrial processes are energy-intensive, and the endless plastic packaging contributes massively to global pollution. Culturally, the aggressive marketing of these products is eroding traditional food cultures around the world, replacing them with a homogeneous, unhealthy global diet. So, what can we do? Addressing this dilemma requires action on multiple fronts, but there are meaningful steps you can take as an individual. First, become a label detective. If a product has a long list of ingredients, often 5 or more, and includes substances you don't recognize or wouldn't use in your own kitchen, like high-fructose corn syrup, hydrolyzed protein, or emulsifiers, it's almost certainly ultra-processed. Second, make whole foods the foundation of your diet. Prioritize fresh or frozen fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, and unprocessed cuts of meat and fish. Third, cook more at home. This is the single most effective way to avoid UPFs and control what you eat. And finally, make smart swaps. Instead of a sugary cereal, have oatmeal with fresh fruit. Instead of a flavored yogurt, choose plain yogurt and add your own berries. Instead of a packaged snack, grab a piece of fruit or a handful of nuts. Ultimately, individual willpower can only go so far in a food environment saturated with unhealthy options. We need systemic change. Governments are starting to act, with some countries recommending avoidance of UPFs and others implementing warning labels and marketing restrictions. In conclusion, the modern diet's dilemma is clear. The foods that symbolize convenience and affordability are deeply implicated in our global health crisis. The science is no longer in doubt. A powerful and consistent body of evidence has exposed the dark side of our modern food supply. Navigating this dilemma requires a fundamental shift, a return to the principles of cooking and eating real, whole foods. It's about reclaiming control over our diet to build a future where food is a source of health and vitality, not just for us, but for the planet as well. Thanks for tuning in to Fun Facts Online.